The Divisional Series is here. Who are the rookies and prospects you need to know in this round? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning baseball writer and podcaster. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. We're proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And today's episode is made possible by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. So we saw 4 sweeps in the wild card round. So some folks are going home, and we are on to the Divisional Series starting Saturday. We have 4 games on Saturday, and then we're going to start staggering some games with some off days. It's going to be a great time. And I want to talk about some of the rookies that we need to know about in this round. National League first, Diamondbacks and Dodgers. We've talked about Corbin Carroll at length, right? He's the rookie of the year in the National League. He's one of the more dynamic players in the entire postseason, right? 25 home runs, 54 steals, batted .285 with a .506 slugging, one of the fastest players in baseball, some of the best defense. And so we know about him, but there's been some other guys that have had big roles on this Diamondbacks team. Alek Thomas played a lot of outfield for them. Jake McCarthy, 99 games in the outfield there. Neither one of them known for their power, combined for 11 home runs, but have a role on this team as far as quality contact, playing good defense. Gabriel Moreno at catcher. I can't think of a trade in the offseason that worked out as well as the Dalton Varsho for Gabriel Moreno 1-for-1 trade between the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays as far as working out for the Diamondbacks, right? But we've talked about those guys at length. I think we need to talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers because they've gotten some contributions, some surprising contributions from young players, despite having such a veteran-laden roster, right? They're one of the older rosters in this round. Freddie Freeman, 33. Max Muncy, 32. David Peralta, 35. DH JD Martinez, 35. Jason Hayward, 33. Chris Taylor, 32. But they're also 26-year-old James Outman playing center field, 151 games. He's played in almost every single game this year. 248, 353, 437 for James Outman. 23 home runs, 42 extra base hits, 68 walks to 181 strikeouts, and 16-19 on stolen bases. He's not a perfect player. Yes, he struck out too much, 31.9% strikeout rate this year. He's not necessarily hitting the ball hard, average exit velo of 87.5, right? But he's been able to help them both offensively and defensively. He's played some innings in right, he's played some innings in left, but most of his time has been in center. He's committed a grand total of 2 errors in center field in 135 games. So 1,103 and 2/3 innings and 2 errors for James Outman. A very crucial part of this team. And then also who it looks like is going to be a Game 2 starter behind Clayton Kershaw, Bobby Miller. And this is assuming they don't throw Lance Lynn. They might choose to throw Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn has not been absolutely atrocious since coming over in trade. He's 7-2 with a 4.36 ERA in his 11 starts in LA, 64 innings, 16 home runs. You don't necessarily love that. 47 strikeouts, 22 walks. But if it's me, I'm looking at what Bobby Miller has done this year. 22 starts. He's 11-4 with a 3.76 ERA. And in that 124 1/3 innings, 119 strikeouts, so 8.6 per 9, to only 32 walks, 2.3 per 9. It's actually the best walk rate of any starter who is still around on this team because Julio Urias is not currently on this roster. They have some decisions to make, right? Who is the game 2 starter? It probably should be Bobby Miller. It's probably going to end up being Lance Lynn. And then somewhere in there, you've got to find time for Ryan Pepiot. 2-1 with a 2.14 ERA. His 8 appearances, 3 starts this year, but 42 innings, 38 strikeouts to 5 walks. So 8.1 strikeouts per 9, 1.1 walk per 9. And for a Los Angeles team that can move Mookie Betts to second base to get a better defensive outfield, to get Jason Hayward on the field, or even move Mookie Betts to shortstop to try to maximize the offense, having pitchers like Bobby Miller and Ryan Pepiot that don't give up tons of home runs. Miller gave up only 12 home runs in 124 innings. Having guys like Miller and Pepiot that don't walk a ton of batters, don't give up a ton of home runs, it's either strikeouts or weak balls put into play. That gives this defense a chance, that makes things easier on this defense. And so Bobby Miller, Ryan Pepiot, both need to have a good series if the Dodgers want to advance easily against the Diamondbacks. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to find a way to contain Corbin Carroll. You're going to have to not let Christian Walker beat you to death with home runs. But it's a divisional matchup. Obviously, they've seen each other quite a bit this year. Going to be a good matchup. The other National League matchup is another divisional rematch between the Atlanta Braves and the Philadelphia Phillies. And honestly, this is an argument for reseeding the postseason. If you were to go in and reseed the postseason after the wild card round, you would have Braves Diamondbacks versus Dodgers Phillies. And as good of television as Braves Phillies is going to be, there is an argument that the number 1 seed should probably get the lowest seeded team that advances in the next round. And just like a lot of the other leagues reseed in the postseason, it feels like MLB is going to eventually get there, and I think this will be one of the things that eventually gets them there. But what's surprising about this Braves team and then the Phillies, there's not a ton of rookies that play really big roles on these teams. We talked about Johan Rojas earlier in the week for the Phillies and how crucial his outfield defense is in the defensive configuration for the Phillies. They have the option to do Rojas in center and then Christian Pache, which we saw in one of those games against the Marlins. We saw that, or you can do Brandon Marsh depending on the handedness of the pitcher and who's batting. But being able to put Rojas in center means you can move somebody else to left. You can put Schwarber at DH with Bryce Harper at first base, and it makes your defense exponentially better. So we talked about that earlier this week. I want to say that was Tuesday's episode. You want to go back and watch that. But this matchup doesn't necessarily have a ton of rookies, especially on Atlanta's side, that are going to play a big role in this matchup. There is a prospect that I think could play a huge role for Atlanta. We'll get to that in the third segment. But next, I want to talk about the Twins and the Astros, and then the Rangers versus the Orioles, because there's a ton of rookies involved with 2 of these teams, and it's going to be really interesting. We'll do that next right here on Locked On MLB Prospects. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Ibotta. This is the postseason, which means if you're having a watch party, pizza, wings, buffalo chicken dip, whatever you want to eat while you're watching a day full of 4 playoff baseball games, you can go out and buy it and get cash back on your purchase with Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, produce, personal care, pantry goods. No matter what you're buying, you can beat inflation. You either link your loyalty account from the grocery store or upload your receipt after you shop and you get cash back. It's incredibly easy. The average Ibotta user earns $100 per year. You could cover an entire shopping trip at that, or you could use the cash back to buy a flight, tickets to a game. We have a sponsor that can help you with that. Shout out Game Time, a fancy dinner, whatever it might be. Other apps give you points. The points don't do a lot. Ibotta gives you real cash back. You can cash out to your bank account. You can transfer it via PayPal. You can get gift cards. And you can earn cash back on those different online brands and retailers too. So download the Ibotta app now. Use code MLB to start earning real cash back. Go to the App Store or Google Play Store. Download the free Ibotta app and use code MLB. That's IBOTTA in either the App Store or the Google Play Store, and use code MLB. Okay, so in this American League postseason, there are two teams that are absolutely loaded with rookies. And the bad news is, unfortunately, they're not playing each other. You have the Minnesota Twins loaded with rookies playing the Houston Astros. And some of these guys for the rookies, or for the Twins, are guys that we've talked about before. And side note, Twins fans, I am so happy for you guys. I'm happy that you guys won a postseason series. Never mind win a postseason game, won a series. Very excited. Pretty sure the last time that happened, George Bush was president. And so thrilled for you guys. Legitimately happy. Kyle, you're going to hear this in like a month. Shout out to you, buddy. Happy for you. But when you look at this Twins team, right? Leadoff man, from the very beginning, you have a rookie in Edouard Julien, and you have to be throwing strikes because he has one of the best batting eyes in all of baseball. You have Royce Lewis, who does nothing but hit home runs. And then in the outfield, you've got Matt Wallner, who has a massive bat, obviously is prone to strike out from time to time. But right there, you've got three rookies, your second baseman, your third baseman or DH, depending on how they use Royce Lewis, and your left fielder, that are crucial rookies that you need to know about because they can swing this series one way or the other. And it doesn't mean that Houston doesn't have any rookies. The most prominent guy, as far as rookies are concerned, is catcher Yanier Diaz. Okay? One of the breakouts of this Houston Astros team, if you asked us before the season, and I guess you did because we did a Rookie of the Year draft, Hunter Brown was going to be that guy for us. We expected Hunter Brown to be the breakout from this team. He was in the bullpen for the last little bit of the season because he struggles, and we'll get to that in just a second. But Yanier Diaz for the Houston Astros, they use him at DH, they use him at catcher, they use him a little bit at first base, but 104 games this year, 282, 308, 538 slug, 23 home runs, 45 extra base hits, 11 walks to 74 strikeouts. Does not have a stolen base attempt. It's probably a good thing, but it's something where he's caught in 60 games. He started 42 of those. He's DH'd in 38 games. He started 36 of those, and he's played first base in 8 games. He started in 7 of those. It's trying to find ways to get him on the field, and there is some pushback in Houston amongst the front office, reportedly, amongst the fans, and even some of the players, that Yanier Diaz does not get more playtime for the Houston Astros because he's been so good. Martin Maldonado, the veteran at 36, still gets the majority of that. But Yanier Diaz absolutely has been a crucial part of this Astros team, and he has to be playing multiple times in this series, and he has to be hitting because he's so much better offensively than Martin Maldonado, who is batting .191 in what is assumed to be his final year of his career at age 36. We don't know that for a fact, but it feels like it's probably going to be. And I think there's time you can play Yanier Diaz at first base as well, because Jose Abreu is only batting .237 with a .383 slug. So I think there is more playing time for Yanier Diaz than he's probably going to be given from Dusty Baker. The Hunter Brown thing is really confusing because you look at this team and you're like, okay, they've got Verlander. He's announced as the game 1 starter. You've got Framber Valdez. You've got plenty of options. And Hunter Brown was working out of the bullpen recently. And it's because his second half has been a huge struggle. This year for Hunter Brown, 11-13, 5.09 ERA in 29 starts. But, and this is really weird, okay? The second half of the year for Hunter Brown has been significantly worse, okay? He was 6-6 with a 4.12 ERA in the first half, which isn't great, right? But it's not awful. Second half, 5-7 with a 6.57 ERA. Not great, right? And I was digging in to try to figure out, why is Hunter Brown so not doing great in the second half? And the easy thing to jump to is it's the innings, right? He's thrown 155 innings this year, whereas last year he threw 126. And so fatigue, he's taking that large jump. But then when you also dig into it, there's another factor that's really, really weird. And I don't quite know why. Hunter Brown on the road is 7-4 in 14 starts with a 3.80 ERA. At home, Hunter Brown is 4-9 with a 6.56 ERA. And so the first thing I thought was, it's the Crawford boxes. Like, he's given up more home runs. It's the Crawford boxes. He's getting got by the Crawford boxes. So you go in there and you look, and it's like versus righties versus lefties. There's not, it all makes sense, right? Righties hit 17 home runs against them. Lefties hit 9 home runs against them. Both of them 300 and change on plate appearances. Honestly, when you look at it, it looks like he dealt with the fatigue at the same time that he had a stretch of a lot of home starts that did not go well. In the month of September, 5 starts for Hunter Brown. Every single one of them was at home. This is counting the third start. He pitched 5 scoreless, hitless innings against Oakland. Counting that game in the 5, he's 1-4 with a 9.14 ERA in the month of September. Counting the 5 scoreless innings against Oakland. Because he went 4 innings against the Yankees, 5 runs. He went 4 1/3 against the Padres, 6 runs. He went 5 1/3 against the Orioles, 7 runs. And he went 3 innings against the Royals, 6 runs. And you're going to hear on a broadcast at some point in time this weekend that Hunter Brown has not been good at home. He's been good on the road. And in reality, I think what it is, Hunter Brown has pitched a lot of home games at the end of the year when he is very fatigued. And so it's going to look like he has issues at home, when if you go to earlier in the year, there are plenty of examples of him pitching well against quality teams at home. It's not necessarily the fact that he is at home, it's the fact that he made home starts in September, having gone over any previous innings limits that he had in the past. The other matchup, Rangers versus Orioles. Rangers, the big rookie here to know about is Josh Jung. Playing third base, was one of your favorites for Rookie of the Year until he had an injury and missed like a month of action, but has looked very good. This is where you think I'm going to take the Evan Carter victory lap. The Evan Carter victory lap comes in the prospect section in the next segment. But Josh Jung, the rookie to watch for the Rangers. The Orioles, obviously, there are lots of rookies to watch for with the Orioles. The 2 big ones, though, Gunnar Henderson and Grayson Rodriguez. Gunnar Henderson at the age of 22, 255, 329, 489, 28 home runs on the year, 56 walks to 159 strikeouts. So striking out just over once a game, but also hit almost 30 bombs while giving you elite defense at shortstop and at third base. He is going to be your Rookie of the Year in the American League. And then one of the big things, it's one of the big factors in this series is going to be Grayson Rodriguez. I tore this team apart at the trade deadline for not going out and getting another starter at the trade deadline. But when Grayson Rodriguez came back to the majors in mid-July, he looked like a new pitcher. So from April 5th until he got sent down May 26th, Grayson Rodriguez was 2-2 in 10 starts with a 7.35 ERA. Not the Grayson Rodriguez that we thought it would be or that we expected. But when you look at when he got back in July, and from July through the end of the season, he had a rocky start against the Dodgers in his first game back, which honestly, what a game to have to come back to, the Los Angeles Dodgers. He gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. Outside of that, he has not given up more than 3 earned runs in any start since July 22nd. He's got 13 games, 5-2 record, a 2.58 ERA, 73 strikeouts to 21 walks in 76 2/3 innings. I don't know what the pitching rotation, as of this moment, they have not announced what the pitching rotation will be for the ALDS, but you have to think that Grayson Rodriguez is going to be, if not your game 2 starter, then at least your game 3 starter, because Grayson Rodriguez has been fantastic in the second half of the year since coming back from AAA Norfolk. In just a minute, let's talk about the prospects who have a chance to impact this divisional series round. We'll do that next, right here on Locked On MLB Prospects. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Snap into action this MLB postseason with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. Right now, as of time of recording on Thursday night, the Baltimore Orioles are favored over the Texas Rangers. The Houston Astros are favored over the Minnesota Twins. The Atlanta Braves are favored over the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Dodgers are favored over the Diamondbacks. If you think something's going to go differently, or you want to get in on some of the other fun props there, team that scores the most runs, does any player do this or that or whatever, use the FanDuel app. Super easy to use, tons of betting options. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get ready for the MLB postseason with FanDuel, an official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Okay, so looking at prospects that have a chance to impact the divisional series. Evan Carter has already made his presence known just by hitting a home run and playing fantastic defense and getting on base seemingly every single at-bat in the 2 games that Texas played already. But on the National League side, I want to make sure that we pay attention to AJ Smith-Shawver of the Atlanta Braves. So the Braves have had injury issues in the rotation all season. They've used 16 different starters. 3 of those were relievers. So 13 starting pitchers and 3 openers as relievers. But they use 16 starters. And Bryce Elder is their number 3 technically, because Charlie Morton is out with a finger injury. Spencer Strider starting on Saturday for game 1. Max Fried coming off the IL to start on Monday for game 2. He had a blister on his left index finger, which you spin a curveball, that's a big deal when you have a blister there. But Bryce Elder was an all-star in the first half of the year. But since the all-star break, 5.11 ERA. Just like Hunter Brown, he is already over the innings he pitched last year. He pitched 159 last year. He's already over 180 this year. And so it's entirely possible that you see AJ Smith-Shawver potentially get a start for Atlanta in place of Elder. He got a start the last week of the season and did really well. 3 2/3 innings against the Cubs. No hits, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, and a run scored. And I know it's weird to have no hits and only 1 walk and a run still scored, but it was a leadoff walk to rookie Mike Tauchman. He stole second, advanced to third on a ground out, and then scored on a fielder's choice when he beat the throw home. No hits, but they scored a run there. And then after the 3 innings, Kyle Wright, who led all of MLB in wins last year with 21, but has been rehabbing from 3 months missed with a shoulder injury this year, he came in, pitched 2 1/3 innings, got the win for Atlanta, looked really good. So it's okay. Smith-Shawver's probably going to make the roster. And then Atlanta did a thing this week where, because they had the bye and they didn't want to just hang out and watch games like they did last year because they got eliminated by Philly in 4 games, they did inter-squad games. AJ Smith-Shawver got the start with the second team, the away team, right? He threw 5 innings against Atlanta's number 1 lineup with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Matt Olson and all those guys. 5 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, struck out 5 batters. And now the thought process is, okay, Atlanta's not locked in to using Bryce Elder in Game 3. If you win Game 1 with Spencer Strider and or Game 2 with Max Fried, you have the runway rather than having to risk it with Bryce Elder. You have the ability to throw AJ Smith-Shawver, back him up with Kyle Wright in a piggyback situation, and then know that you still have Spencer Strider available in regular rest for Game 4, and theoretically, assuming the blister reacts okay, Max Fried to come back around for Game 5 if needed. And if not, if you advance in 4 games, Max Fried can start Game 1 of the NLCS. Watch for AJ Smith-Shawver. He may have the potential to do a lot for this Braves team in the postseason. On the American League side, we already victory lapped Evan Carter. Yeah. But I want to be mindful of Heston Kjerstad for the Baltimore Orioles. He hasn't gotten a ton of play time in the regular season. 13 games, 30 at-bats, right? But in those 30 at-bats, 233 batting average, 467 slugging. He has 2 home runs, 3 total extra base hits, 2 walks to 10 strikeouts in 13 games for Heston Kjerstad. He can play either outfield corner. He can play first base. And so you have something where first base, you're fine. Ryan Mountcastle's batting 270, right? Left field, Austin Hayes is batting 275, right? But Anthony Santander in right field is batting 257. And if you need a pinch hitter or if you need to rotate somebody else in, probably give you a little bit better defense and give you more power than, say, Hayes, who has a slugging of 444. You can roll Heston Kjerstad out there, and it just feels like this is set up for Heston Kjerstad to have some sort of big home run against the Rangers to either put the Orioles in it late or to let them come back and take a lead late or tie it up or something like that. It just feels like that's what's going to happen in this series. So if you're trying to watch these games on Saturday, Texas at Baltimore, 1:03 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Minnesota at Houston, 4:45 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1 on FS1. Philly at Atlanta, 6:07 p.m. Eastern on TBS. And Arizona at LA, 9:20 p.m. Eastern on TBS. Going to be a great Saturday of playoff baseball. The 2 AL teams play again on Sunday. The 2 NL teams play again on Monday. That's when we'll be back. In the meantime, if you have questions for that mailbag that's coming on Monday, I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Show's on Twitter at Locked On Farm. You can email us, Discord, subtext, tons of ways to get them into us. Let me have them. We'll answer them on the Monday mailbag show. Until we talk next time, enjoy the games, and remember, it's always a great time to pay a minor leaguer.